Hi there, it's me, Celebrant Lindy, and I'm here in my garden on this beautiful Scottish day, right in the heart of Scotland, and I'm making this wee video about wedding rituals, which I thought I would do to help any of my couples, well, to help any couples really, who are thinking of incorporating one of the rituals, one of the more popular rituals, into their ceremony. And so I thought I would talk about the more popular ones and what they mean and what you can do with them. But this list is by no means exhaustive, and there are loads and loads of rituals that can be included in a wedding ceremony. And I actually like the idea of a couple creating their own that they can pass down through their own family. But there are some that are very popular, and so I thought we would talk about some of them. And rituals, wedding rituals they're a wee bit like Marmite, I think. Some people love them, some people hate them. And or maybe that's not true, because there's a group of people that think they should put them in but they're not that bothered. But actually, I love rituals. I absolutely love them. And I think rituals give depth and meaning. If they're done properly, they can give real depth and meaning to a wedding ceremony. Because it's not the ritual itself, it's not the tying of a ribbon or the pouring of sand, it's what that symbolises, it's this idea behind it, it's what it points to, and it points to the idea of forever, unity, trust and hope and love, and a future filled with laughter and happiness. And I think that's really important within a ceremony. I mean, most couples that come to a celebrant to have their wedding ceremony conducted, it's not always that there's this conflict between religion and non-religion. And I know I'm getting off track here a wee bit, but I think it's quite important when it comes to rituals, because we know that more and more people are turning away from religion. Well, in the West anyway, they're turning away from religion. But that doesn't mean to say that they're turning away from spirituality. And I personally believe there's more of a spiritual hunger in this part of the world than there's ever been before. And I'm a real spiritual person, and I'm on a bit of a spiritual journey. Not a bit of a spiritual journey. I am on a spiritual journey, and I am absolutely loving it. And I've been on it maybe for about 15 years. But it's one of those things that, you know, it's a lifelong journey, it's a lifelong path really. But yeah, so I think that while most couples that come to celebrate, they don't really want any religion in their ceremony. Sometimes they want a wee prayer, sometimes they want a hymn, which is absolutely fine. But even the ones that don't want any religion, they want it to have depth, they want it to have meaning, they want it to have spirit. And I think wedding rituals do that, perform that better than anything else, better than any words can. So let's talk about some of the more popular. Let's start with handfasting. Now, handfasting, an ancient Celtic tradition, and there are different schools of thought. Sorry, I'm just going to have a wee drink of my tea. I hope you've got a wee cup of tea. There are different schools of thought as to where handfasting originated, or why it originated, I should say. And some people think that it was just a form of a couple being engaged. Some people think it was a way of sort of trying out a marriage. So you would do the handfasting, it lasted for a year and a day, and if at the end you weren't happy, or some people would say at the end of that 1 year and 1 day, if the wife hadn't become pregnant, then the husband could walk away. There are lots of different ideas, but if we think about centuries ago, and I'm talking about Scotland because that's where I'm based, and of course it's all I do. If we think back hundreds of years ago, when people were living in clans out in the moors and the glens, you know, these people didn't have money. They probably weren't even using money. It would be a bartering system, I would imagine. But they certainly, even if they were using money, they didn't have loads of money to go and have big fancy ceremonies, wedding ceremonies. That was a privilege for the gentry, if you like. But it was still really important for a couple to establish themselves as a couple, as husband and wife, within a community. And so they would just get, not always a minister, I believe it wasn't always a minister, if you look back at the literature, but often just somebody important in their community. So let's say a clan chief. They would go either on their own with a clan chief or just a few of their friends and family off up into the hills of Scotland, and they would take a piece of material that was important, something maybe that was borrowed, something. But a lot of these phrases we hear today, you know, something borrowed, something blue, tie the knot. That's tie the knot comes from handfasting. And so they would go way up into the hills, and a piece of material would be put around their hands, and it would be bound, their hands would be bound together to symbolise their unity as a couple. And as I said before, it's not just about taking a piece of material and tying it around hands and tying a knot and saying, there you go. It has to be done with real meaning, and it has to be done with sincerity, and it is the idea of what that binding points to. It points to two people who were once strangers coming together and deciding to spend the rest of their life together, and being there on that day, making their vows to each other, their vows to love and to honour and to respect, and that binding solidifies those vows, it cements those vows. And it's very, very important. Now, up to now, I have been using different things for hand fasting, so I hope you can see these. Sometimes I use tartan ribbon. Sometimes a couple will decide that they have their own ribbons or cords that they want to use. That's absolutely fine. I have been making my own just out of ribbon that you can buy in any sewing shop, and there are a number of YouTube videos to show you how to put these together. And then I just buy some, these are wee charms and thread that hang in the end to make it nice. So that's what I've been doing up to now. And of course the couple come together, the cords are bound round both their hands, and there are different ways you can do this, and I always meet with a couple and then we decide what we think would be better. But once that's on, we then would tie it, and we maybe tie, I hope you can see this, I'm just doing this, I didn't plan to do this, but we'd maybe just tie it like this, or we could do a unity knot. There's different ways of doing that, and I'll make I do have another video that sort of shows you, and I'll make more. But I would then, once the hands are bound together, say some words that just about, and I usually make it up when I'm there, but it's about the couple coming together and realising as they hold each other's hands, as they feel each other's hands, the importance of holding the hand of the person that they're going to spend the rest of their life with. So that's what I've been doing up to now. I wonder if you can hear my husband knocking next door. I did tell him I was making a video, but who knows. Anyway, but I've just come back from Harris and Lewis, the islands, the Outer Hebrides. And while I was there, one of my couples who are getting married in July, Alex and Amelia, who are from Romania, and they're getting married in Aberdour, and they are having hand fasting. And when I was asking them about cords or ribbons, Alex, the bridegroom, said he quite liked the idea of having some Scottish tweed, because they just love everything about Scotland, hence why they've come to Lindy and I do. And so I decided when I was in Harris that I would go and look for a wee cut off, a wee bit that I could just use for their ceremony. But when I got into the Harris tweed shop, I fell in love with all these tweeds. And it just hit me when I was in there. I thought, why am I not using these all the time? They're so Scottish, they're so beautiful. And it was really after we spent about half an hour with the young man who told us all about how they're made, and there's a loom in the shop, and he showed us about all these different 600 pieces of wool being bound together. And it just made me think of a hand fast. And, you know, once that's done, it can't be undone. Not in the way that it would take it back to how it was before. And so I decided there and then that from now on, I am going to use Harris tweed in all my hand fasting ceremonies, unless a couple wants to use something else, and that's absolutely fine. But so I've gone from, because I include my hand fasting ribbons in my fee, so I've gone from using ribbon that costs a few pounds a metre in my local sewing shop to using Harris tweed that costs £42.50 a metre. So much more expensive, but I just think it's going to be beautiful, and again it's going to bring something so Scottish, isn't it? And so when I meet my couples from now on, I will take this material and I will let them choose what they want to have, and if they don't want it, if they want something else, fine. But if they want this, I will then go and make them the hand fasting ribbons from this material. So hand fastings, very beautiful, very Celtic, very Scottish, really romantic, my very favourite of all the ceremonies. So that's hand fasting. What next? Well, let's go to what sometimes is called the loving cup, and I really don't like that name. I think it's quite cheesy. And so I've tried to put a wee Scottish slant on some of the names. So hand fasting's fine because that is what it was called in ancient Celtic times. But loving cup I don't love so much. So in the loving cup, the idea is a couple drinks from the same cup. And it's quite often done with a quaich, what we'll talk about in a minute. Again, very Celtic. But I've decided not to call it a loving cup. I've decided to call it a wee swally. Because most people will know that Scotland and alcohol kind of goes together like peas in a pod, like salt and vinegar, like fish and chips. Scottish people like their alcohol. But while in other places, in other countries, or in the Queen's English, people might say, oh, would you like to go for a drink this evening? Here in Scotland, we would say, do you fancy a wee swally? Do you fancy a wee swally on Friday night? Would you like to go for a wee swally? A wee swally just means a drink, but it's a wee bit of a contradiction in terms because it's not usually a wee swally, it's usually a great big swally, so there's usually lots and lots of alcohol consumed. But I decided to call this ceremony a wee swally, and it's just where at some point in the ceremony there would be a quaich, and I have two quaichs that I'm now using. These are both handmade just for me, and they were made in the town of Ayr in Scotland, which is where I was born, the Burns country, Rabbie Burns country. And yeah, I saw this guy's work on Facebook, and I asked if there's any chance he could make me a quaich, and he made me this one first, which is pewter and walnut, and then he went on and made me the wooden one, and I absolutely adore the two of them. So what would happen is there would be some liquid in here, like whiskey, champagne, whatever you wine, whatever you like. But at some point in the ceremony, the idea, and there are different ways you can do this, but the idea is there would be a unity ceremony where both the bride and groom would drink from the same cup, and they can link arms, and one can drink and then offer it to the other, or one can have it and then pass. There's different ways of doing it, and again we would discuss that during one of our meetings. But it's a really nice wee ceremony. So I have these two quaichs that I use, but also when I was recently in Harris and Lewis, my husband and I bought two of these goblets from Borg Pottery in the Isle of Lewis, famous pottery place, beautiful stuff. And we bought two for ourselves, and I loved them that much I decided to go back and buy one for our ceremonies. So just if a couple didn't want to use a quaich, then this would be full of champagne or whiskey or whatever. And again, it's offering it, the bridegroom offering it to the bride, and the bride offering it to the bridegroom, sipping from the same cup, symbolising unity and coming together. So another nice wee ceremony to have. All these ceremonies are about unity. They're about two different individuals coming together as one. One that I like but I'm sure there's somebody else doing it, but I came up with the idea because I saw this bottle in a shop and I thought, oh, that would be really nice for message in a bottle. And so I bought a couple of these bottles, and inside there are these wee pieces of what looked like sort of ancient, no papyrus, but I can't remember the name you would call it. And so if a couple want to do a message in a bottle, what I'm going to get them to do is put each of them, the bridegroom, put a note to his bride, just saying whatever he likes. It's nothing to do with me, nobody else is going to see it. And the bride doing the same for the bridegroom, keeping them on them, and then at the ceremony they will be popped into this bottle and the lid will be placed on, and I'm going to work out a way that that's on so that it can't easily be taken off. And then they would keep that, and maybe on their first anniversary or their 10th anniversary or their 50th anniversary they would open that up and read what they've written to each other. So message in a bottle. You heard it here first, I think. I'm just checking my time. And so yes, so that's us. We've had hand fasting, we've had a wee swally, we've had message in a bottle. Okay, right, where were we? Because from the last video to this one, I've been off, conducted a funeral, and I'm back again. So we've had hand fasting, we've had a wee swally, we've had message in a bottle, and so the next one was the sand ceremony. Sand ceremonies, really, really popular, and these kind of, I think, started for beach weddings. People were getting married on the beach, and as a way of tying that in with a nice sort of unity ceremony, someone would come up with this idea of sand. And so what usually happens is that there will be a central vase or bottle. I'm trying to use all Scottish whisky bottles because that keeps in tone of my I do. My husband just gave me this morning, his 16-year-old Lagavulin bottle, gave me empty and said I could have it in condition that I replace it with a full one. Aye, right. So what would usually happen, there'd be a bottle, an empty bottle in the middle, and then the bride would have a vase or a bottle or a wee jar with some sand in it, and the groom would have one too, and at some point during the ceremony they would pour them into the central vessel. And the idea is that that sand mixes in together. When you mix sand up, that can never be undone. It's come together, it's bound, it's entwined in a way that will last forever. And some couples choose to have coloured sand, so he might have yellow, she might have green, and they put it together and it all mixes together. This is a really nice one to do if you have children, because everybody can have a wee vial with different coloured sand in it, and if you pour it in one after the other, it layers it in these beautiful different colours. But who'd want to do that with this fabulous Harris gin bottle? The distillery actually gave me this for free. They don't usually give away free bottles. It's something to do with health and safety regulations or something, but when I told them what I was going to be doing with it, they very kindly gave me one for free. I would like to hold on to this. I haven't quite worked out what I'm going to do in terms of my ceremonies with it, but I just absolutely love it. So, sand ceremony. I'm not calling it sand ceremony. I have I-do'd it. I'm calling it a doon the shore ceremony, because when I was a wee girl, my dad would say, do you want to go down the shore? Do you want to go down the shore? And so that's what I'm calling it, doon the shore ceremony. But known everywhere else is the sand ceremony. And next I thought we'd talk about another favourite of mine, which is the oathing stone ceremony. Beautiful way to cement your vows again. And it's where there's a stone and the bride and groom would put their hands on it and they would say their vows while touching the stone. And the idea is, again, whatever the vows are speaking to each other are being absorbed into this stone, and they're going to keep it for all time. And so when I was up in Harris and Lewis recently, we were wild camping on the beach in Lewis, and there was pebbles everywhere, just thousands of pebbles, big pebbles, small pebbles. And I spent hours on the beach looking for these wee pebbles. And one day I decided to go and look for one for my oathing stone ceremonies, because I thought that was really nice. And before I went, I did a wee sort of, some people would call it a prayer, you know, cosmic ordering, law of attraction, whatever you want to call it. But I asked Spirit to guide me to a love heart, a stone that's shaped like a heart. And look what it brought me. How wonderful is that? The perfect oathing stone. So at ceremony I would hold that out, and it's really heavy, and the bride would put her hand on and say her vows perhaps, and then the bridegroom would put his hand on and he would say his vows, and then they would put both hands on together, or both hands might be there all the time as they say their vows to each other, and they're just making their oath to something. I mean, this stone, look at it, it's as smooth as a baby's bum. It's it has been in the sea, the ocean, for hundreds, maybe even thousands of years, and it's a piece of rock that's fallen off from somewhere, and then it's been rolled around with all the other rocks and whatever else is in the ocean, and it's a bit like a marriage, isn't it? Because you have ups and downs and you have challenges, and it can be a bit of a roller coaster sometime, and yet it's come out the other end absolutely shaped like a heart and beautifully smooth and just full of spirit, really. And so I absolutely love it. It's one of my favourite things that I brought back from Harrison Lewis, my oathing stone. So that's another really nice ceremony that you could choose, or ritual that you could choose to have within your ceremony. And last but not least of what I'm talking about just now is the jump in the broom ceremony. And I'm just going to get my broom here. This is my broom. I hope you can see that. And this is often done as part of a handfasting ritual. And what would happen at the end is that the celebrant would hold the broom out, and can you still see me? I hope you can still see me. And the bride and groom would jump over it together, and symbolising that they're jumping into a new life together, jumping into a new adventure together. I call this broom Meg, and I called it Meg after the horse in Rabbie Burns's Tam O'Shanter poem, which is Tam O'Shanter comes across the witches and the warlocks in old Alloway Kirk in the graveyard, and they start chasing him, and he's trying to get away, and he is racing down towards the bridge over the River Doon, the Brig o' Doon, and the witches and the warlocks are chasing them, and of course they're trying to get him before he gets to the bridge because they can't cross the water. And just as he almost gets to the bridge, one of the witches runs out, reaches out, and she grabs a hold of Meg's tail, and Meg takes this huge jump and reaches the bridge, and Tam O'Shanter gets away safely, leaving the witch holding poor Meg's tail. And that's why my broom is called Meg. So that's it. That's all the rituals I wanted to talk to you about today. As I was saying, there are so many more, and I really love the idea of couples coming up with a new ritual or something different. I've had couples do glow sticks. I had two girls, Kelly and Amanda, do a glow stick ceremony in Edinburgh Zoo. I've had recently Ruth and Mervyn, they did a gift giving ceremony where they had 3 children between them, and they gave them all the gift of a watch to mark the moment in time when they all became one family. And that was just absolutely beautiful. And so there are so many different things you could come up with. So if you are thinking of having a ritual in your wedding ceremony, please think about it carefully. Think about what would have most meaning to you and to your partner, and make sure that he or she is on board with this. You know, I've had I've had meetings with couples where one has said, oh yeah, we're going to do a sand ceremony. You could just see the other person looking, thinking, oh my God, that sounds terrible. I'm going to be so embarrassed in front of all my mates, or whatever. Make sure it's right for you, and make sure that you choose a celebrant that's going to really treat it with the respect that it should be, so that it becomes a really meaningful part of your service. Hope this has been helpful. Any questions, just drop me a line at lindy@idoceremonies.co.uk. Thank you.